What can PJ Washington and Dereck Lively II get better at this summer for next year? We talk about that and a whole lot more on today's DLLS Mavs podcast. Hello and welcome to the DLLS Mavs podcast. It's a pretty special edition of the show today, folks. I'm not going to lie to you. My name is Bobby Corella. Joining me as always is Tim Cato. We got Tanner Rotman producing just off screen. Folks, I'm going to keep it straight with you. We don't have internet at the DLLS Sports Studio, so we are coming to you from the past, and there's a chance we might encounter some turbulence along the way of this recording, so if there are any sudden cuts, don't be frightened. Everything is fine. Just make sure that you drive safe. On today's show, Kevin Gray will be with us tomorrow. So too will Mark Stein, who got out while the going was good. He's out in L.A. getting ready for Wolves-Lakers tonight, and he will give us a report on that and a whole lot more on tomorrow's show, which will be live. But today, Tim and I are riffing. If you're a basketball nerd and you need a spreadsheet, this ain't the show for you, all right? With no internet, this is all vibes, no stats. We're talking about PJ Washington, Dereck Lively, and other Mavs that could potentially improve internally. And then a little later on, we'll dive into some playoff talk. First, Tim, are you dry? How are you feeling?
I think I'm pretty dry. I think we're surviving inside here. Leaks notwithstanding, the lack of internet. We really are going back to an agrarian society. You know, I'm going to go home to my farm. It's going to provide subsistence. I'm gonna have a green tax that I got to provide to the...
Well, large flooding can damage crops, Tim, so it's important to keep them safe.
I thought plants like water. I thought that was like their whole deal.
Yeah, but like in mass, I don't know. Luckily, we have a lot of snacks, and we got a lot of sparkling water, okay? Because despite our best efforts, and I would say Tim and I are probably the top 2 sparkling water drinkers in this office, followed closely by Kati Vialba.
Yeah.
We got loads of it. So if we get stuck in this office, we're going to be safe for at least 2 to 3 business days.
If we get stuck by the water, we have extra water.
Yep. We don't even need to drink our way out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. You think it's raining sparkling water right now?
Actually, that would be pretty sick. I kind of want to go find out, but we will in about an hour. First, though, we kind of talked about it a little bit on yesterday's show with KG. One of the questions he asked us, Tim, was which Mavericks can get better and which Mavericks need to get better. And we all kind of agreed that it needs to be PJ and Lively. So I figure we might as well dive a little deeper into that. PJ did let's start with him. For stretches this season, he was pretty good. There was about a month and a half-ish stretch from late December through leading up to the Luka trade where he was averaging about 18 points a game, which going way back to September is what I said he would average for the whole season. So I felt real vindicated. The problem is Luka was out. Kyrie missed some of those games. The Mavs lost a lot. And then they made a big trade you might have heard about. And PJ got hurt as well. And everything kind of went sideways. But for about a month or month and a half, we did catch a glimpse of the PJ Washington that we thought might be around this season. Everything before and after that, though, left you wanting a little more. So how, if possible, and if it is possible, then what can PJ improve on for next season?
You know, I think the team talked about coming into the season that, you know, he was going to be entrusted as a ball handler. He was going to have some more ability to create for himself. But if you really look at this roster and how it looks potentially going into next year, they're going to play double bigs. I think the most important thing PJ Washington could do is become a not just a reliable catch and shoot 3-point shooter, but like someone who takes a lot of them, someone who takes 7 or 8 a game and wants to take those shots. You know, it's going to be a little bit trickier for him. You know, I think it's really valuable to have players who are not your stars who can put the ball on the floor and get a bucket. That is a super valuable skill, and I'm definitely not discounting that. But I think about, you know, the level that PJ Washington is at, that, you know, I think he's at a good level there. I don't think him adding, you know, unless he turns into a superstar overnight, which is not going to happen. We know the, you know, trajectory of NBA players. That's not something that adds to the team. In fact, I think a lot of what he does is going to be a little bit more difficult if Dallas doesn't have spacing. But if he's going to be starting next to two guys who, 90% of the time operate inside the arc, he needs to be a guy who's adding to that spacing. He needs to be helping Dallas and being somebody who is reliable and consistent from the corners, and but also comfortable, spotting up, shooting anywhere on the court. I think even down the stretch of the season, we saw him go back to a bit more self-creation, even with his three-pointers, where he would take step back shots and pull up and transition more confidently. That's all great if he's making those shots reliably and consistently, but I think the most important thing for him is just those catch and shoot looks. Within the makeup of this team, that's what Dallas needs. That's what they're lacking in the starting lineup that we think is going to go into next season. It can't just be Klay Thompson, and so that for me is where I think PJ needs to focus.
I would if I had internet right now, and it just actually flicked on for a second, so I'm about to post a tweet saying, "Hey, we're recording. We'll see y'all soon." But if I had very reliable and functional internet, I would pull up stats to say, okay, I bet PJ probably turned it over at a slightly above average rate on drives, and I bet he turned it over at a slightly above average rate in transition. I agree with what you said, though. If they are committed to double bigs, there's not going to be a lot of opportunities to drive, and they're probably not going to play in transition a whole lot either. And so it is almost fine to have that as a weakness. The weakness, though, that would be an issue is shooting. We've talked about that a lot. Like, if he's going to be a three, you need your three to be willing to take open shots, especially from the corner. Teams are going to collapse their defense, really try and shrink that floor right around the rim to prevent Brandon Williams and Kyrie, once he comes back, and AD from being able to put the ball on the floor and get to the rim. Teams are already taking away the lob before they got AD. They're certainly going to do that now with two bigs and kind of no guards to get them the ball. I think PJ's got to get better as a shooter, and to give Klay some help there, like you said.
After he got traded to Dallas, he was taking almost 6 a game, and that fell to 4.2 this season.
Yeah, and I bet after the trade, it was probably like 2.5.
Right. Obviously, a lot of that is that Luka wasn't there, both through injury and then the trade to create those 3-point looks that PJ shot so well, shot so many of last season. But also, 43rd percentile in terms of turnover rate last year. So 43rd, meaning he turned it over about 14% of possessions. Yeah, that is
a lot.
Yeah, and that is a bit below average,
especially because he's not, unlike a guy like, say, like decision makers, Kyrie or Luka, or even a guy like Giannis that has the ball a lot. Giannis doesn't make necessarily complex reads the way that some playmakers do, but he has the ball a lot, faces a lot of defensive attention. PJ is never really in a situation where he's having to make a choice, and he's never really the object of the defense's eye. He's usually doing pretty simple things, straight line drives, post-ups against smaller players, things like that. And so to turn it over that often is kind of a bad sign.
62 of his turnovers were lost ball.
It's a lot.
Only 37 were bad passes.
And he only played, 50 games or something?
Yeah. Usually you turn the ball over through bad passes a lot more often than lost balls. It's a fundamental way, a pretty simple way to look at things. But
I would say ball handling is a thing to work on, though, because, once the word gets out that you dribble up here, it's kind of over for you. All right, we got a lot of offseason to talk about PJ, but let's touch on Dereck Lively before we get the break here. His second season it didn't even feel like it really happened, man. It never really got off the ground. In early to mid-November, you and I are way more into Dereck Lively, I think, than the average person.
Yeah.
We were both saying he's their second or maybe even their best player right now. Well, maybe getting a little too excited, but he was awesome. And then he got hurt. And then he kept getting hurt over and over and over again. And then they traded Luke and he came back and he was playing with no guards. So we never really got to see Dereck Lively this season on a real team for a real long period of time. I don't think that you can just work on getting healthier, but on-court stuff from what you saw from him this year, what do you hope he improves on for next year?
Yeah, just a little bit more comfort. It does feel like we're starting over because I feel like I'm about to say the same things that I said entering last season.
Yeah.
In August and September, what I said is just a bit more comfort, creating layups for himself. Not to say that they're not assisted, not to say that he is being asked to ISO, but if he catches inside the arc and there's just a player between him and the rim, I would love to see him have a consistent and a consistent ability to Euro step or take a dribble and take 2 steps and get to the rim and turn what would be, a starting position that's about 15 feet from the rim, turn it into 2 feet consistently. Get your shot there. And I'm also obviously okay if he just does that same thing and does it kind of with the jump hooks and the touch shots. And I do think that he advanced in those areas a little bit in the small time that we saw him. We saw him really look for and be comfortable with those, turning over his shoulder and just floating the ball in. But it's a great shot. It's a necessary shot. But the more that you can turn 6-foot shots into 2-foot shots, that's what the best players do. Yes, they're very good at the 6-foot shots. That's an important skill, important thing to have. The very best players turn, it doesn't matter how good you are at floaters. You're never going to shoot more than, I think Jokic shoots about 60% on them at his best. That's amazing. That is a defense breaking shot. Either you got to be Jokic, or you just got to turn it into 80% shots. And even Jokic does that very consistently as well.
He was starting to switch more and guards more. And as memory serves, he was doing a pretty dang good job at that.
Yes. Even down the stretch, even when he came back.
Yeah, when he came back, he was still doing decent, and the great shame of his injury, if you're a big man dealing with feet or dealing with knees, that is not good. And so hopefully, he's able to get on the mend and come back, and it'll be like nothing even happened, and he'll be able to do that same stuff next year. Because if you lose a step or if you can't move the way that he used to, then that could really stun his development and his effectiveness.
Yeah, I mean,
but if he's able to be that guy, then my God.
Yeah, I reported this. I don't think surgery has been fully rolled out as an option for him this summer. We'll see what exactly happens, and nobody's rooting for that, and certainly not saying it's guaranteed. But that was a question that he had in this whole process that got detailed by me and by ESPN's Tim McMahon about the training staff, and that's where a lot of that strife came from. Most of the strife centered around Dereck Lively, the initial misdiagnosis of his injury. Should he come back? Just his entire return to play pattern and ramp up. That's where a lot of the strife stemmed from. And I think there's still some lingering questions about what is the best path forward for him. And yeah,
dude. And frankly, I mean, I don't know everything that happened. I'm not in the room, but if there was either a misdiagnosis or a misunderstanding of his injury, then I don't trust this training staff to get him back to full speed. I don't. So, I'm going to put a 21-year-old's future ahead of some strength coach or some trainer. Hopefully those guys get it figured out, or if not, they can get some people in here that can. Last thing before we go to break, are there any other candidates for internal improvement that we missed out on? Here's a couple young guys. You can hit me with a yes or no. We only have about a minute. Omax.
I am sad to report, because he's your favorite player of all time.
About to break my heart right now.
Your favorite athlete, but I don't think so.
It is raining really hard. I'm about to go on a long walk and listen to sad boy music. But before I do, Brandon Williams?
No, in the sense that I think he showed the improvement. I think the question for him is, can he carry it over? But if he can be next season, or even for portions of next season, you talk a lot about the first time somebody gets in the rotation, they're going to hit a wall. Well, if Brandon Williams just gives you 50 games and then hits a wall and Kyrie's coming back, like that kind of works out.
Yeah, I'll take that.
Exactly. So I think the question for him is not improvement, but can he do what he did down the stretch of last season in the part of the NBA season that we know is weird? March and August.
Lastly,
March and April.
Jaden Hardy.
I don't think so, but maybe another team thinks so. I think that's the more pertinent question.
Yeah, well, we'll see about that, I guess. Coming up next, we're going to talk about the Western Conference playoffs. Teams that have already developed, teams that have improved internally. Actually, we're going to talk about the East. I changed my mind. I'm still developing and improving. You're just along for the ride here on the DLLS Mavs podcast.
The boat ride.
But first, what is better than barbecue and country music? I'll tell you, barbecue and country music where you can stay indoors and stay dry this weekend.
I was going to say basketball development.
Yeah, well, that is too. But the Lone Star Smokeout, it's coming to AT&T Stadium from May 2nd through May 4th. That is Friday through Sunday. While you're there, it's a 3-day event. There's barbecue, there's live music. There's going to be a competition from 14 of the top barbecue teams all across the United States, and you can help choose who you think should be crowned the champion. There's events each day like Texas's biggest happy hour. There's a derby day. You can celebrate Cinco de Mayo a day early. That would be on Sunday. And again, there's music every night. Cody Jinks, John Party, and Midland will all be performing. And we did give some VIP ticket giveaways on the DLS social channels. You never know what good stuff you're going to find on there, so make sure you're following us there as well. Kids 10 and under get in free in general admission. Tickets start at just $68, so don't miss out. Get yours today at LoneStarSmokeout.com.
Just like your favorite team needs a home court advantage, your home needs a home floor advantage, and Empowered Today can help you get it. Empowered Today has flooring experts, dedicated flooring professionals who focus on flooring every single day of their lives. Just like PJ Washington should be focusing on dribbling every single day of his life. We've all been to those big box stores and you wander endless aisles and somehow you're hauling all that material home, looking for an installer. They might have a flooring department, but the person helping you with flooring may have been doing sinks yesterday, could be stocking light bulbs tomorrow. Empire Today lives and breathes flooring, and they will be with you every step of the way. It's a whole different ball game. Schedule a free in-home estimate because some things are just better at home. DLLS listeners can receive a $350 discount when using promo code DLLS. Yes, you heard that right, a $350 discount with code DLLS. Restrictions apply. Visit EmpireToday/DLLS for full details.
So the Eastern Conference, as promised by me, it's pretty wild. And now Cleveland and Boston, they look like world beaters. They look incredible. So, I mean, we don't even necessarily need to talk about them, but
we could talk about Boston for a second. I thought it was very interesting. They only ended up taking 24 threes. They had, I believe, 0 of 6.
Take that, Kevin Gray.
0 of 6, 0 of 7 in the first half. Ended up heating up later as the game went along. Won the series 4-1 over the Orlando Magic in a 120-89 blowout last night. But it was interesting how much Orlando was able just to deny three-point shooting until the dam kind of ended up breaking, and Orlando, had to play more of their offensive players just to try to get back into it. But while they were keeping steam and playing their all-defense lineups, it was notable. I just don't know. Really, the question, I mean, the best way to play Boston, absolutely, is to take them out of this. And Boston won the game anyway, so it didn't matter. But they did really force Boston to take a lot of two-pointers.
Yeah, they lost by 31 though. So
yeah, I mean it was close up until like the second half of the third quarter.
Yeah,
and that's when it really broke. The problem is that nobody has Orlando's personnel, and it's just very difficult. It's a very difficult thing to do.
I do want to point out that 2 play-in teams got swept. 1 play-in team lost in a gentleman's sweep. The other one, Golden State, actually has a chance to win that series over Houston. Granted, that series feels like it's been too close to be a gentleman's sweep, but who knows? Maybe that thing gets sorted out tonight. We'll have to see. But in the East, Milwaukee last night goes out bad and sad. Kind of the way the Mavs blew a game in Indiana against that same team just a couple months ago. That was a laugher. But Milwaukee last night, they're up by 7 points. They blow it. They lose by 1 in overtime. Giannis completely crashes out on the court after the game. Granted, Tyrese Halliburton's dad, what are you doing, buddy?
Yeah.
What are you doing? Get the hell out of there. But the Bucks, man, Brook Lopez no longer starting. They traded Chris Middleton for Kyle Kuzma. That blew up in their face. Bobby Portis is doing his best, but I mean, he's kind of who he is at this point. It really feels like this era, Dame might not even play next season. This era of Bucks basketball is kind of over. Now, whether Giannis stays there or not, I guess is his choice. But, I mean, what do they do? Where do they go from here?
I mean, yeah, you're going into a do-or-die playoff game. Bobby Portis, Gary Trent Jr., Kevin Porter Jr., and A.J. Green as the 4 starters around you.
It's a tough situation.
That's rough. Kyle Kuzma coming off the bench only plays 13 minutes. Brook Lopez comes off the bench, only plays 8 minutes. They combine for 7 points. That is rough. It's really rough. I said, I think on Monday's show, that it felt initially like the Lillard injury to Giannis might be a situation where it's like, well, I can't leave the team after this. But now that they blew a 7-point lead with a minute left, with 40 seconds left in overtime, like that's the ugliest way to lose a basketball game. One of the ugliest ways I've ever seen. I don't know, man. It does feel increasingly like this is headed for a Giannis exit. And, he put up 30, 20, and 13.
I mean, dude, he's unbelievable. He's unbelievable. Now, I don't want to, embrace debate on this show and just talk about personnel moves and which superstar is going to ask out. But coming into the year, I was saying, dude, the Bucks are old. They're old, and old teams can get dusty, and it can end early for them. And it did. Granted, if Dame was healthy, maybe they win that series. Maybe they go on and even beat Cleveland. Who knows? But it's a lot of first-round flameouts for them over the last few years since winning the title. And
I mean, I think they gave up on the Middleton team a little too soon. You could even argue they gave up on the Drew construction, the Drew Holiday construction.
I would have held on to Drew Holiday forever. I love that dude.
For sure. And, like some of their losses, they won a title and then they kept losing because Giannis wasn't healthy. Now, they're ugly losses. They're embarrassing losses. But Giannis wasn't healthy. Maybe, and I don't look back. I understand the Lillard trade. I don't think you can only look at it revisionistically.
It was a huge swing at the time, man. I just didn't like it. You have Drew's really good. Why are you giving up Drew? And they gave up picks too, right? Like, what's going on?
If you make that trade looking back, or I think even in the moment, you have to find the third home for Drew Holiday.
Yeah,
that isn't the Boston Celtics. I think that's a pretty
that was a
obvious
huge whiff, man.
Yeah, just a
whiff.
massive mistake on their part.
Yeah, and I think the reason that matters, I want to try and localize this to the Mavs. The Bucks really went all in on their timeline, and Mark brought this up yesterday on the show. They went super all in and they won a title, and Mark is like, would you ask Bucks fans, was it worth it? What would they say? Well, I would say they would think it was worth it when they had Drew Holiday, but then they went even more all in and got Dame. And the Mavs aren't quite to that point yet because the Mavs still have picks they can trade, whereas the Bucks, I think the Bucks are just fresh out. Bucks don't have really any youth to speak of, whereas the Mavs at least have some young, interesting guys.
Who's
Max
the guy
Christie,
they traded
we didn't
to,
talk about him.
Who's the guy Milwaukee traded to Washington?
AJ Johnson.
Yeah, AJ Johnson. Like the one player they might have actually hit on in the draft.
And they traded him. And I mean, it's just a really old team. And you get to a point where you're sort of stuck. They're like gridlocked. Like, what do? They have Bobby Portis, who's like a much older version, probably maybe even worse version of PJ Washington. They're not going to be able to get off him. Brooke Lopez, way older than Gafford. They can't get off him. Like, how all in do you want to go until you get to a point where you can't do anything? Like, they're just sort of stuck. Who's going to trade for Dame? Who's going to take on Lopez or Bobby Portis or Kyle Kuzma or any of these guys? They're kind of left holding the bag. It's like they got rug pulled, and now the only way to kind of reset is to move the main dude. That's the only guy you don't want to trade. And I just don't want this to happen to the Mavs 1 or 2 years from now.
I mean, what choice do they have?
It's always better to be early than late.
Yeah.
But it's a tough situation for them.
It's very difficult. It does feel like it's coming to an end. It's at least slightly less sad when a core that won gets to carry on, even if they're not good enough. It's much sadder that now the two players who were in this with Giannis are shipped out. Chris Middleton was essentially traded because, Milwaukee was like, this guy's going to break down at any second. We have to get whatever we can for him.
Always a good position to be dealing from.
Yeah, sure reminds me of a certain trade. Like the Chris Middleton trade for Kyle Kuzma is not dissimilar to the process Nico Harrison used to trade Luka.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, I guess you could have been a little bit more patient. I don't know. I don't know the specifics. Obviously, Chris played pretty well down the stretch for Washington. Would he have been reliable? Would he have been available? It's hard to say. Would it have mattered if they hadn't made that trade if Chris Middleton was on this Bucks team?
I don't think they would be any better.
Yeah.
Probably not worse either.
Even if Lillard was healthy the entire series and they still had a Chris Middleton who was, let's just say he was not like, Chris Middleton at his best, that changes things. But let's say he, was more the player he had been throughout this season. That's tough. I don't know if that core is doing much more. I think Indiana was a really bad matchup for them. This is what happens. This is sometimes what happens. There's it's a sad situation because it's the end of an era, very possibly the end of an era, probably the end of an era. But the Bucks got their title. That's the huge difference.
Yeah, they did.
So whatever, I think it's
that's a team that hadn't won in 50 years.
Yeah. So there's no bemoaning. There's no inherent real sadness. It's sad that it's over, but happy that it happened. Not every team has that opportunity. There's a lot of teams that put cores together, beloved cores, and they never get that opportunity. They never get that validation.
It did happen to the Mavs, you know, and it might happen with this one too. Well, there's only one way to find out, but kudos to the Pacers. That's a fun team to watch, man. And I don't know if they stand a chance against Cleveland, but we'll find out. Elsewhere, Knicks Pistons, dude, that series rules. If I'm a Pistons fan, I feel like my team should be up 3-2, not down 3-2. But either way, you're coming back to Detroit for Game 6 with a chance to force a Game 7. Pistons look, dude, Cade is a badass. The Pistons look awesome. Jalen Duren is so good. Malik Beasley and Tim Hardaway got oodles and oodles of confidence, and Jalen he's barely able to move. I mean, he had to watch the game from the sidelines down the stretch.
Detroit was the worst team in the league last year. Almost, what was it, tied or set the
14
longest?
and 68. I mean, they were terrible. Yeah,
but they set the longest losing streak.
27 in a row. I think. Yeah,
and now they have a chance. They're looking feisty. They could be up 3-2. They could be advancing past New York.
Great.
Last season, Dallas went to the NBA Finals. This year, they didn't even make the playoff tournament. The difference between those two teams, Tim Hardaway Jr. Yeah. So he's a culture setter.
Yes.
And that's what Dallas really lost. But now this Detroit team, even though Cade, is as the only guy, he's the only creator on this team. Dennis Schroeder to an extent. It does feel like they're a piece away from being something really dangerous. But also, they're pretty scary right now.
They're good right now. And I mean, again, Jalen is hampered. And if he was moving at 100% speed and stuff, maybe the Knicks win last night. They're on to the next round and it's over. But, dude, I just can't help but look at the Knicks this year just from start to finish and be like, I just thought they'd be better. Maybe that's on me. Maybe I was just way too high on the move and getting McHale in there and getting Cat in there. I thought that they were going to be clearly the second best team in the East and maybe be able to give Boston a run for their money. But, it looks like a pretty wide gap between the Knicks and the Celtics. And if they do win that series, they would play Boston in the next round. And I would have a hard time believing that the Knicks could hang with them. But we'll see. I mean, I'm a huge Jalen Brunson fan and believer.
Yeah, it's tough to see. It's tough to see New York having, I think we all thought their ceiling was a bit more than this, a bit higher. And even though I think I had doubts, I want to say.
I was higher on them than you were. I remember that.
Yeah, I definitely remember that. I definitely had just concerns, especially about McHale. And I think those have more or less come true. Like he's not really either of the things that he was.
Yeah.
In Phoenix, probably a bit overrated defensively, but very good defensively.
Yeah.
Very, 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 very good defender. Never should have been in like DPOY conversations, but very good defender. In Brooklyn, he was ultimately a very efficient, kind of lead scorer type. And it just feels like he's the worst parts of both those things. Maybe worst is a bit harsh. Certainly his defense has not been.
Yeah, him and OG they're not I thought they were going to be like the Bash Brothers, man.
Right.
I thought they were going to be locking people up.
Right. And OG has. OG's lived up to it.
OG is awesome.
Dude, he does stuff so on the basketball court. It's just like, how do you deal with that?
So cool.
You know who OG reminds me of? Kawhi.
Oh, okay. I can see that.
There's a lot of Kawhi in him. I don't think he's ever going to be Kawhi. It's probably too late for that trajectory. How old is he? 27?
Yeah. Mavs fans, I did my part in trying to get them to take OG way back when. I just want you to know, I tried. No one listens to me.
I mean, the Mavs love letting people named Bob.
Yeah, they do.
Pick players for them.
Wrong shadow GM. I should have come by a couple years earlier. That's my bad.
Bummer for you. But yeah, no, I think OG's awesome. Even down the stretch, he really, at times he looks more like the McHale who was a lead option in Brooklyn than McHale does. And that's, we'll see how consistently he's able to do it. That three he hit to make it interesting late, I know McHale hit one as well. That three he hit was that
awesome.
reminded me so much of Kawhi.
Yeah.
Just the wide stance,
form, confidence, everything.
Yeah. Just like kind of dipping, making space, and then I'm just gonna shoot this up over you. You're not gonna, you can't jump to contest. You can't risk the foul.
All emotionless.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see if the Knicks can close that thing out. That game, I believe, is tomorrow night, right?
Probably.
Not too sure. You're the one with functioning internet right now because you set up a hotspot because you're a smart person.
No, I turned it off. I probably should have kept it going.
Tomorrow night. So
yeah,
we'll see how that series turns out. Coming up next, we are going to talk about the Western Conference actually now. So don't go. Well, we're not live. Well, you're watching this live. Don't go anywhere. It's the DLLS Mavs podcast. But first, owning property comes with plenty of challenges, and overpaying on property tax should not be one of them. Did you know that you can fight your property taxes and save thousands of dollars every year with our friends at Ownwell? How easy is it to sign up for Ownwell, you ask? Like, you give your information to people. It could take hours. You got to get approved. You got to link every bank account you've ever had. Give them all your credit card information, your social security. No, none of that. Ownwell, it takes 3 minutes to get in and get you signed up and ready to protest your taxes. It is an effortless process, and Ownwell saves you money on your property taxes without you having to do anything. You just give them the stuff they need. They take care of the rest for you. Put property tax money back in your pocket in just minutes. Ownwell handles everything from start to finish and delivers top results. No upfront costs, only pay if you save, and 86% of their customers did just that with an average savings of $1,100. The deadline to protest is May 15th for most counties. Save money on your property taxes with Ownwell. Sign up in less than 3 minutes and start your protest today at ownwell.com/DLLS. That is OWNWELL.com/DLLS.
Bobby, what's your favorite sound from a basketball game?
Squeaky, squeaky, squeaky. Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. It's everybody knows it. Everybody who has ever played or attended or been around basketball, like, we know the sounds. And you can hear them through the TV if you're just catching an NBA playoff game tonight or last night, this week, for the coming weeks. But there's nothing like being there actually in person to experience the hype, the atmosphere, and the sounds. Those the
swish,
those beloved sounds. It's just special. And Game Time can help get you tickets to all of the NBA games, all the playoff games going on right now. They have a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. And it filters out the fluff. So they only show you incredible deals on great seats. So you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. But Game Time can also help you get tickets for concerts, for comedy shows, for sports that aren't basketball. Not that you would want to do something like that. Obviously, basketball is the best one. But they have options for any live event that you're looking to attend here in the coming weeks and months. Be sure to check out Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code DLLS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code DLLS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it?
Game time?
Game time.
So, the Western Conference playoff extravaganza bonanza, it's not quite as chaotic as I maybe thought it would be. The Warriors tonight, they have a chance to close out the Rockets. The Wolves have a chance to close out the Lakers. I mean, that would be 2 upsets, which is pretty chaotic, but I was thinking every series is going to go 7. Let's dive in.
I still think Denver, LA is.
It's been a good one. That's been a good one, and I want to start there. But first, OKC is kind of like the White Walkers. It's like you can play your little Game of Thrones, but like I know what's really waiting for us. I'm not sure that any of this matters, but let's just pretend that it does. Let's start with Denver.
In the end, the White Walkers didn't really matter either.
Yeah, well...
Yeah.
Don't get me started on that. That's for deeper in the offseason.
I have forgotten about everything about that show.
As you should have. So Nuggets Clippers. A few days ago, everyone was like, "Yeah, the Nuggets suck," but now it's like, are they actually good? Like, are the Nuggets a good team, or maybe are the Clippers? Because we all kind of were thinking, man, the Clippers might be the second best team in the West right now, and they're just kind of doing playoff Clipper stuff. So what's going on there?
Yeah, I mean.
I see 2 very flawed teams. Am I wrong?
I see 2 flawed teams. I do think the Clippers' flaws are more their own doing, especially in games 1 and 4. And I think they've outplayed Denver. And That's harder to say after Game 5,
Where
where
Denver
Denver
smacked 131.
Yeah, Denver
115.
pretty handily won that game, and it was convincing. And a lot of what the Clippers had found defensively just didn't matter. There's fantastic shot making from Denver. Ended up hitting 17 threes. I bet the Clippers probably had a better shot quality metric. I bet their shots were better.
Yeah,
but just
Jamal Murray just went to that special place, though.
Yeah, and you know what? I remember thinking. So at halftime, I believe the Clippers were down 8. Denver was up 8. And it felt two different things. It felt like LA should be happy or proud or confident that they were only down 8 given the shot making from Murray, but also Westbrook put in a bunch of jumpers. They should feel okay about that. But playoff games, especially once you get, especially in a 2-2 series, a tied 2-2 series, and it's basically a best of 3, playoff games just get decided by shot making all the time. And that is what ended up happening. If this game had happened in Game 1, it'd be a little bit different. But I think the Clippers have already blown a couple fantastic chances to win this game. I really like this Clippers team, but it is looking a lot bleaker, obviously. I think they still have a chance to win because I think Denver is still pretty flawed. And, we'll see how Michael Porter keeps gritting through this shoulder injury he has. They're playing DeAndre Jordan, unironically. But
paying Zeke Naji a lot of money to just kind of watch.
Yeah.
It's sort of weird.
Yeah.
It's tough, man, because one of these teams is going to go play OKC, and I think it would be funny to watch Jokic go up against them, but it would also be so cool to see the robot Kawhi go up against just chaotic Alex Caruso and Shea and Jalen Williams and all those guys. So, I'm kind of torn on who I want to win, but I really don't think it matters. I think OKC is so much better than both of these teams. And styles make fights and everything, but, dude, I just don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'll be proven wrong, though. Do you think there's any chance that either of these teams can beat OKC?
No, not really. I want to say the Clippers, but I think I just enjoy watching the Clippers more.
Yeah.
But
I think the Clippers have a better chance than the Nuggets.
I do too.
At the risk of pissing off our friends in DNVR.
I think multiple tough shot makers is the recipe. Having multiple shot creators, having multiple players who can hit. You just have to account for a lot. Doesn't mean it's going to be easy. Doesn't make it simple. But having Zubats as a it's I like having an auxiliary big man going up against their Chet and Hartenstein, so that it's not a question of every single the whole offense runs through Jokic and he's gonna have to figure out his way. It's more about, can we get advantages with Zubats when Oklahoma City goes smaller or when they're kind of running and scrambling around. I don't know though. I don't think any team's beating OKC. I agree with you.
Has Harden played a series in OKC as the visitor?
It's a great yeah. I think so.
Did he? Okay.
I believe so.
Oh, he did the first year after he left, right? Didn't he?
That sounds right.
Yeah. Oh well, who even knows?
Lakers, not us without internet.
Yeah. Lakers, Wolves, and Rockets, Warriors might both come to an end tonight with the underdog winning both series. They'd have to win on the road to do it. Golden State's up 3-1 playing in Houston tonight. Wolves up 3-1 playing in LA. My opinion, I guess we have to kind of breeze through this decently quickly here, but those two series, my opinion coming in was
7 minutes? 6?
5. We're so off right now without clocks, without internet, anything. 7?
Yeah, 7, 2.5.
Oh, okay. All right. Never mind. We can talk at length about these series. I thought the Rockets were going to handle business against the Warriors. I just thought the Warriors were going to be too old and too slow. Turns out, not a ball knower, but I thought the Wolves were going to handle the Lakers pretty easily. Turns out, maybe ball knower potentially. What are your thoughts on these two series, and what are the chances that they're over tonight?
The Warriors, I thought, were a better team than Houston. Houston won a bunch of games and deserve credit for it, and are a very difficult team to play. But net rating doesn't lie. just the offense that they mustered throughout the season was never very convincing to me. And I'm not surprised how that series is playing out. And it's been close, like obviously things could swing one way or the other, but I think that I have seen Golden State just be the better team. I don't know if I've seen that in Lakers Wolves or Clippers Nuggets while we're at it. I think both of those series are two teams that are about the same level of talent. And that doesn't take anything away from the teams that are up, to be clear. Denver is a good basketball team, it turns out. A flawed basketball team, but they're still very good at their best. Minnesota's a very good basketball team. Still flawed. Yeah. Still got some flaws. Still got some concerns. But they're a good basketball team.
It feels like what they're doing against LA is just easier than what LA is getting against them.
Yeah.
But that's like such a sports talk thing. But it just seems like it's easier.
What's the worst player you could put on the Lakers that would have swung that series? Like,
I mean, well, it's kind of harsh or like faint praise or whatever, but I like Gafford or Lively would be doing wonders for them right now.
Right.
I think.
Right.
I neither of those guys are bad though, is the things, but like they just need size. Like they need something, because like their Lakers low man is like Luka or Reeves.
Yeah,
and they don't have good perimeter defenders either outside of Gabe Vincent, who doesn't even play anymore.
Yeah,
so it's it's I don't know. It's just like layup.
Yeah, it's just obviously it's an incomplete roster. We've talked about it a lot. We talked about it after they lost a couple days ago. I think on the Monday show. I know people like Zach Lowe are calling out Luka's defense, and yeah, his defense has not been that good. I'm sure there are asterisks with how much he was playing. Playing the whole entire second half, finishing with 46 minutes,
Bold
coming off an illness.
There.
Wild decision, yeah. Especially being up 10. Was it late in the third or early in the fourth?
The thing is, though, man, if I could just really quickly go on record with this, Luka did that a lot in Dallas too. Now maybe J-Kid and JJ Redick are like of like mind, but they both kind of seem like superstar player vibes guys. Luka and LeBron wanted to play the entire second half. Like, if I had to guess, they probably said, I want Dorian out there too, and I want Reeves out there too, and I want Ruby out there too. I don't think Luka likes sitting on the bench.
No, which is funny, given all the many contexts and things that have been said about him. But yeah, no, I think that's 100% true. It's, for me, it's Luka's offense that hasn't been transcendent. I think it's fair to say Anthony Edwards has been a better offensive player than Luka, and Luka's been good. He's been great, but he hasn't been transcendent, and I think that's definitely affecting them. But ultimately, you come back to it. This is a team without a center, without size. It's another reason why they should, like, it was so painful watching them try to rebound.
Yeah.
Just like completely gassed and exhausted out there. Rebounding is 80% effort, and then 10% power of will and some other stuff. But it's a team that matches up poorly. I still think that both teams are about even. I think that, as we know, if Luka hadn't got sick, if he was full speed for Game 3, there's a lot of ways that this series could have been different, that it could have been tied 2-2. Very easily could have been tied 2-2. I just think, it's very difficult to. They're not going to come back from that.
Yeah, and Ant is just. I mean, my God, that dude is.
I think
so
they'll win
good
tonight, but
maybe. We'll see. I will be locked in on that, assuming that I have internet at home. I will be locked in on Wolves Lakers, and that is coming to you at the friendly time of 9 p.m. Central. So I will be locked in for the first half. We'll see, man. We'll see. Rockets Warriors. I don't know. I mean, Mark kind of predicted that would be a bit of a comeuppance too for the Rockets. It's like experience prevails. It would be Warriors-Wolves in the next round if those series go the way that they are right now. That could be pretty spicy.
Yeah.
It's not the same people from the Wolves that were there whenever Jimmy was there, but Jimmy versus Ant would be pretty cool. I think Wolves have a lot of athletes like Nikhil and Jaden McDaniels to chase around Steph. Wolves do have size. a little more physical size maybe than the Rockets do. Like, I think it could be a pretty interesting series.
Yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways, Minnesota is they have a lot of similarities with Houston, with players who can create, like multiple players who can create from themselves in different ways. I would have I probably would have picked the Lakers to beat the Warriors had that matchup happened, but I am kind of leaning Minnesota over Golden State if that's the outcome.
Minnesota Thunder it'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
And Mavs fans would watch in pain because they would remember who beat those guys.
Both of them.
Just a year ago.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we will be following that every step of the way and keeping you updated here in case you don't see the scores or anything. But coming up next, we're going to dive into some business dealings. We're going to talk gambling. We're going to talk about real estate. We're going to talk about all sorts of weird stuff going on off the court on the DLLS Mavs podcast. But first, folks, there has never, and I mean never, been a better time to be a diehard. Spring has sprung in Dallas. You want to know how we know? Because there's a storm raging so hard outside that we don't have internet at the office. So you know it's spring, and springtime is one of the best times to be a sports fan because baseball is baseballing, basketball playoffs, NHL playoffs are going. Stars are about to try and fly to Colorado somehow. I guess good luck to them. And then the NFL draft just happened. And if you want to be part of our coverage...
Did you get drafted?
I did not. That's another year that I haven't been drafted. Just disgusting, frankly.
Sad for you.
And how about Dallas Wings playing their first game? I believe preseason game this week, and their season opener, I believe, is next week already. So, heck yeah for that. But if you want to be part of our coverage of all of these events and more for the next year, you should become a diehard. Scan the QR code there, click the link in the description below, or go to alldls.com/YouTube-intro-offer or intro-YouTube. I don't know what it is. Well, it'll be in the show notes. And you can become a diehard. When you do, you get a free shirt right when you sign up. It's a pretty sweet deal. We got more than 40 to choose from. You get to join the DLS Diehard Discord. You get to read the entire website, all that premium paywalled good written by Tim Cato on the Mavs beat. Jeff Wilson on Rangers, keeping you up to speed with that team and their fire Nico chance at the arena at the ballpark last night. Clarence and Joe on Cowboys, and Sam and Sean on Stars, as the Stars are trying to close out a series of their own here in Denver just tomorrow night. So, like I said, scan that QR code, join the Discord, read the site, get your physical diehard card, and a whole lot more. There are so many benefits to this. Thank you for supporting us however you do, whether you're one of the 22,000 subs on YouTube or whether you're one of our nearly 1,500 diehards. Thank you for being part of this journey with us. Every step of the way, all city to the moon. All right, is the final segment of the DLLS Mavs podcast. No internet, all vibes edition. Bobby, Tim, Tanner. Tanner, what's up?
Not too much. How's it going?
Pretty good, man.
Yeah.
Pretty good. It's been
Ready to drive? Oh no, you have to walk home.
Yeah, I gotta walk home facing me, staring me down right now. And I forgot to bring my galoshes and my umbrella, my coat.
Man, you're gonna be swept away.
It's gonna be tough.
We're gonna look around and see you in the Red River.
It was nice knowing all of you. Luckily, the floodplain is very nearby without doxing ourselves. All right.
You can almost see the Trinity from here.
You can.
It might actually be full.
It might.
We
might exist today.
Yeah.
So this is listed as a politics article. I promise, before you get mad, we're not going to dive into political stuff here. Tim and I got takes. Those are for a different show that we don't host. But there is an article that came out in Vanity Fair yesterday, and there was a tangentially related article that came out in KERA today, actually. But this Vanity Fair article, how Miriam Adelson went from big MAGA winner to casino loser in Trump's first 100 days. Obviously, that is a very politically charged headline, but kind of the gist of this story. Obviously, Miriam Adelson is now the head of the Adelson family, which owns the Sands Corp, which is one of the top casino and gaming companies in the world and hospitality companies. The Adelson family and Patrick Dumont have made no secret that they want to build a casino-style resort in Dallas, potentially even in Irving, if the city of Dallas doesn't give them what they want. And they want the Mavs Stadium to be part of that development. Now, every step of the way, they've encountered some red tape, some pitfalls, some landmines, because first off, gambling is not legal in Dallas. It's not legal in Texas anywhere. In order to build a casino here, you'd have to get gambling legalized. You would also have to get zoning stuff from the city. That's what they're trying to do in Irving right now, and that just failed. That did not work. The public in Irving does not want that. The same situation would have to happen in Dallas. It would, first off, it'd have to be legal in Texas, but then it would have to be legalized and agreed upon by voters in Dallas, by city council and stuff. And now they're trying to pump money. Apparently, there's a PAC that is pumping money into the Irving City Council elections. This is coming from KERA, with people that would ostensibly throw their support behind rezoning stuff in Irving in the event that gambling is legalized. And so this story is chronicling some of that. The KERA story follows up on some of that too. I'm going to sidestep all the Trump stuff. I'm going to sidestep all the other things. But I think, Tim, the story here is that, for one of many reasons, this effort is not going super well for Miriam and for Patrick Dumont and these guys right now. And that is especially important because, as Mavs CEO Rick Welts has said, we should be talking more about the stadium. And so this is our stadium conversation. They're having a hard time getting this project off the ground right now.
Right, and so the Mavs say they're building a stadium. The Adelson and Sands Corporation team says they're pulling back on. There's going to be a gambling mecca in Dallas. Like these things are not technically at odds with each other, because technically the Mavs can just build a new stadium and that can be their focus, and it doesn't have to have a whole casino attached to it. It doesn't have to have all the gambling laws being passed. But obviously, when Mark Cuban sold to the Adelson family, the understanding was that these two things were going to work hand in hand.
Explicitly, Mark Cuban said they're real estate people. You need that for a resort.
Yes. Objectively, everything that was been promised on record publicly from everybody involved in this transaction, from Mark Cuban to Miriam and Adelson and Patrick Dumont, was this idea. And now that this idea is becoming less sure, less certain, people are not talking about it with such certainty. They're backing off a little bit. You do wonder just where this leaves the Mavericks in all of this. Where does this leave this, enormous financial asset that, for a while it really seemed that's pretty much what Patrick Dumont and the Adelsons were treating it as. Certainly as time went on, they've been at a lot of games, but take the Luka trade. It wasn't, the if there was a sin there, as our coworker, colleague Mark Stein constantly says, there has to be some blame on Patrick Dumont. His sin in this whole thing was inaction. Yep. It was being too uninvolved from this whole thing, saying, well, you've done a good job so far, Nico. Just keep doing what you think makes sense. And now, after this trade has happened, after the backlash, after reporting from me and others about what is going on inside of the Mavericks, what they're thinking, what Patrick Dumont is thinking about Nico Harrison, it does seem like there's going to have to be a little bit more oversight, a little bit more action, a little bit more hands-on activity from Patrick Dumont, as the team's governor, to continue running this asset. Now, I think it's sold. I think most people agree that the Adelsons bought it at because it wasn't an open sale, because it wasn't on the open market, because they did not.
Kind of like the trade.
The Mavericks probably were, the Adelsons probably acquired the Mavericks, the Dallas Mavericks as a franchise, for a bit less than what their valuation would be.
Right.
And so, even though Luka no longer being on the team is absolutely a huge financial hit for the Mavericks and has been reported as
their valuation, holy smokes.
If they wanted to, and we're getting way ahead of where all this reporting is, we're getting way ahead of it. But if they wanted to just say, okay, none of this is working out, and our Q score, our public image within the fandom is so negative now, if they were to choose to just say, okay, well, we're going to flip this again, it would be pretty unprecedented. How many, I know there's been other instances. Ross Perot, for example, only owned the Mavericks for about 4 years.
Yeah.
But there's not many instances of an owner coming in and then just instantly being like,
And Ross Perot did buy the team explicitly to build a stadium and then sell it.
That's right.
That's exactly why. So I mean, it not entirely unprecedented, but I mean, the issue really is like, if they can't build a casino and they can't build a resort and a hotel and all that stuff, that wouldn't be factored into the valuation of the stadium and the valuation of the team, which means you're building a new arena and then selling the team. But if you're not going to get the casino and all that stuff, they're probably not going to put a ton of their money into the arena, which would mean that they need to go the public funding route, which doesn't really add valuation to your team. It just becomes a thing.
If you buy the Mavericks for a specific financial business purpose to use as a basically a foothold into something that you think is more about your broader financial portfolio, about how you are expanding your business, and then all of a sudden that thing isn't available, what is your purpose with the Dallas Mavericks? Are you going to fully embrace? Patrick Dumont does not seem like he seems like someone who is now being forced to take a more control or more oversight of this franchise. Is that actually what he wants to do? Obviously, there's been rumors, speculations about the Adelsons having a son who's running a team in Israel, an Israeli basketball club. Maybe he's being groomed to take over it. Is that the plan? I don't know. I haven't heard anything. I have nothing to add or share, but certainly there's been rumors about that, speculation. Is that the route this is going to go? But it's interesting. It's really interesting, and there are Dallas Mavericks implications into all of the business implications of whether they are going to be able to open a legalize gambling, turn this whole project, have this whole project come to fruition. Just a lot of questions about that.
Yeah, and it does matter for a few reasons. One, Sands Corp no longer owns any properties in the United States. They were completely divested. So this casino would be their first one in the U.S. that they currently own.
I didn't realize they're so interested. I knew, but I didn't realize how far along they had got with the Albany, with the New York.
Yeah,
the attempts to, and a lot of the Vanity Fair article is about how it is exceptionally unlikely that their idea of opening a casino in New York is ever going to come to happen now.
Yeah, and that's where it kind of ties back to the Mavs, but for different reasons. That casino, the Vanity Fair article alleges that their strong ties to the president is part of the reason why that's not going to work out for them. Now, whether or not that's true, I'm not going to know. You're probably already typing a comment. Frankly, it doesn't really matter. But what does matter is public sentiment and public support for instituting legalized gambling and for approving public funding going to businesses and stuff. That's voted on by voters or by city council members that represent voters. And in large part due to the Luka trade and their political ties, it's a very deeply unpopular family in the DFW area right now.
Right.
I mean, there are plenty of people in Dallas-Fort Worth that voted for Trump, but there are plenty of people that voted for Trump that also hate the Luka trade. There are plenty of people that did not vote for Trump that hate the Luka trade. There's a lot of people. You're casting a wide net of haters right now is what I'm saying.
There's the guy who went to the Irving City Council, spoke publicly, and opened it by saying, "Don't let them Luka trade. Don't let this amendment," which is so just like immediately their financial interests are being affected by what has happened to the basketball team.
Yeah.
Like,
so one investment is
mind.
sinking others, and potentially a huge financial windfall. Imagine how much cash flow you would generate if you could put a casino right outside,
right?
Like in Dallas, not in Oklahoma, right here. And you have 41 basketball games per year there, and you have concerts and conventions and all that stuff. Like they just print money.
Online gambling is also in the Vanity Fair article is curbing interest in IRL gambling, as you will.
Yeah.
It's possible that what they saw, they're just behind the market, that the market has already accelerated past what their beliefs, what their ideas of where gambling was headed in the future.
They handed over $3.5 billion cash money to just wake up one day and realize, oh, we missed the bus on this one.
Like Vegas will always
almost
be
like
Vegas.
Trusting Nico to run your team and then being like,
Vegas
what
will
happened?
always be Vegas. People will always be interested in going to a place that is all gambling for a lot of reasons.
There's a lot of stuff that's legal in Vegas that isn't legal here.
Correct.
All right?
There's a lot of just the idea of Vegas basically creates like the ideal version of capitalism's walkable cities, walkable neighborhoods.
Kinda,
It's
all
just
right
this
there.
big sprawling thing that it is a very unique experience. Do people want that in Dallas, Texas though, or would they rather just pull it up on their phone?
Yeah.
Some things are better at home. As
Empire, they would say.
Yeah.
Shout
So
out Empire.
yeah, sorry to bring them into this.
No,
convo,
no, I'm sure they're happy about it. All right, so that is going to do it for us today. We will be back tomorrow, hopefully live if the internet cooperates and the weather cooperates, but I need you to stay safe out there. We're about to go brave the conditions so that you don't have to. For Tim Cato, Tim?
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
Thank you.
For Tanner Rotman, Tanner?
Yes.
Hey, Tanner, thanks.
Hi. Thank you.
Hey, no,
Thank
I
you,
said
Tim.
we're all thanking each other. I love it. Very wholesome. My name is Bobby Corella. Kevin and Mark will be back with us tomorrow. Stay safe out there. Stay dry. Make sure you hydrate and enjoy the rest of your day. This was the DLLS Mavs podcast. We'll see ya.
See ya.
We all silly like the mayor.